My sister took credit for my achievements, lied about writing my songs, and nearly destroyed my career. Now everyone knows the truth. Growing up, my sister Erica and I had what some might call a healthy sibling rivalry. She was 2 years older, always confident and outgoing, while I was the quieter, nerdy kid who preferred the company of books and my guitar. Erica excelled at pretty much everything that earned public praise: cheerleading, student government, and even dating the high school quarterback. Me? I was the kid who could solve a Rubik's Cube in under a minute, but didn't have much else to show off, and why parents, particularly my mom, adored Erica. She could do no wrong in their eyes. Meanwhile, if I aced a test or won a local music competition, it barely registered. "Why don't you take a page from your sister's book?" Mom would say whenever I tried to push back. Erica wasn't mean about it, at least, not to my face. But there was always this smugness about her, like she knew she was the family MVP. By the time Erica graduated high school, she had an impressive shelf of awards, a full ride to college, and an endless string of accolades from the neighbors. When it was my turn to step into the limelight 2 years later, the shadow she cast over me was so long I could barely see the sun. I didn't care much about recognition, though. My big thing was music. I'd been writing songs since I was 13 and spent every spare moment with my guitar. It was the one area where I felt like I was genuinely better than Erica. She had no interest in music, couldn't carry a tune if her life depended on it. So, when I won a statewide songwriting competition during my senior year of high school, I thought, finally, something that's mine. Except Erica couldn't let it be mine for long. The songwriting competition was a big deal. Not only did I win a cash prize, but I also got a chance to record my song professionally and perform it at a regional music showcase. For once, I felt like I wasn't just Erica's little brother. I was Eli, someone with talent and something to say at the showcase. My parents came, of course, but it was clear they were out of their depth in the music world. Mom wore her usual polite smile, as though she were at a school play, and Dad spent half the time checking sports scores on his phone. Erica, however, strutted in like she owned the place. She even introduced herself to the event coordinator as my manager. "Manager?" I asked her, dumbfounded. "Well, someone has to make sure you don't screw this up," she replied with a wink that I brushed it off. That was just Erica being Erica. The performance went great, and the applause afterward was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. For the first time, I saw people, real people, not just my parents, looking at me with admiration. It was exhilarating. What I didn't realize at the time was that Erica had spent the entire night mingling with the crowd, schmoozing with local radio hosts and journalists. When I finally found her after my performance, she was handing out business cards like a seasoned PR rep. "I told them you've got big things coming," she said, flashing her trademark confident grin. "They'll want to interview us soon." I froze. "Us? You wouldn't even know where to start without me," she said, rolling her eyes like I was a clueless toddler. "Trust me, little brother. I'm just helping you get noticed." At first, I thought it was harmless. Erica had always been the extrovert. If she wanted to take some credit for introducing me to the right people, fine. I was too excited about the opportunities to worry about her overstepping. But then the interviews started rolling in, and Erica's version of events painted a very different picture. "She's saying what?" I asked when one article claimed Erica had co-written my song. "You know how these reporters are," Erica said, waving it off. "They twist words around." But the more interviews she did, the bigger her role became. By the time a local radio station called us in for a live segment, she was practically taking over my entire narrative. "It was all about teamwork," she said, nudging me during the interview. I kept Eli focused and helped him refine the lyrics. "He's a genius, but sometimes he needs a little push, you know?" I stared at her, stunned, but didn't want to cause a scene on air. That would only make me look ungrateful, right? So I sat there and smiled like an idiot while she spun my achievements into a shared victory, and that's how it began. My music career with Erica firmly latched onto it like a barnacle. The fallout from that radio interview was worse than I expected. Erica had crossed a line. Sure, but I assumed it was a one-off. What I didn't anticipate was how fast her version of events spread. The article titles were nauseating. "Sibling Duo Shakes Up the Music Scene," and how sister-brother collaboration hit the right notes. She was everywhere. Every time someone reached out about an interview or feature, Erica was the first to respond. By the time I showed up, she'd already set the tone. We were a package deal. To the outside world, we were practically the next Jackson 5, but with 2 people and 0 choreography. My protests were met with a mix of condescension and outright dismissal. "You don't get it, Eli," Erica said when I confronted her. "The industry loves a good story. A lone kid with a guitar? Boring. But a dynamic sibling team? That's what sells." "Except it's a lie." I snapped. "You didn't write any of those songs." "Do you think people care about that?" She shot back, her voice dripping with annoyance. "This is bigger than you, Eli. I'm giving you a platform. You should be thanking me." Thanking her? For what? Hijacking my work. I started avoiding her as much as possible, but she always found a way to pull me back in. When I tried to turn down a joint interview, she'd guilt-trip me in front of Mom and Dad. "Eli's being difficult again," she'd sigh dramatically. "You know how hard your sister works for you." Mom would chime in, shaking her head. "At least show some gratitude." My parents' blind loyalty to Erica was maddening. Even when I explained what she was doing, they brushed it off. "She's just trying to help," Dad said, like I was complaining about someone borrowing my socks, not my identity. Meanwhile, Erica was working overtime to solidify her role as my partner. She created social media accounts labeled The Thompson Siblings, plastered her face on every promo poster, and even started pitching herself as a songwriter to other local artists. "Are you seriously using my credits to build your own resume?" I demanded after seeing one of her Instagram posts. "Relax, it's all exposure," she said. "What's good for me is good for you." Her audacity was infuriating, but the worst part was that people believed her. Every time I showed up for a gig or an interview, someone would gush about how inspiring it was to see siblings working together. It was like shouting into a void. No one wanted to hear the truth. I told myself it wasn't worth fighting over. After all, I was still writing my music and performing. But deep down, the resentment was growing. Erica wasn't just taking credit for my work. She was erasing me in the process. And then came the day she pushed things too far. The day Erica went too far started out like any other. I was prepping for a big showcase, a headlining spot at a regional music festival. It was the kind of opportunity I dreamed about for years. For once, Erica seemed content to stay in the background, probably because the festival organizers had only listed my name on the posters. But my brief moment of peace didn't last. A few hours before my set, I overheard her on the phone near the green room. "I'll make sure it's included," she was saying in her sugar-sweet, professional voice. "Yes, the co-writer credit is important to us. Don't worry, I'll handle everything." My stomach dropped. Co-writer? What was she up to now? When I confronted her, she didn't even try to deny it. "Oh, that," she said, waving her hand like it was nothing. "I just made a little tweak to the festival program. It looks better if we're billed as a team." "Trust me. You can't do that, Erica." I exploded. "This is my music, my show. You weren't even invited." Her face hardened, and she crossed her arms. "I've been the one hustling to get you noticed. You think any of this would have happened without me?" The worst part? For a split second, I almost believed her. Erica had spent so much time framing herself as my savior that it was hard not to question my own instincts. But then I thought about the countless hours I'd spent pouring my soul into my songs while she swooped in to take the credit. "Stay out of my set," I said through gritted teeth. "I mean it, Erica. This is the last time you pull something like this." She shrugged, but I could see the wheels turning in her head. When it was time for my performance, I walked on stage determined to shake off the confrontation. The crowd was buzzing, and the energy was electric. I launched into my first song, pouring everything I had into the music. For the first few minutes, it felt like nothing could go wrong. And then Erica showed up. She strutted onto the stage like she belonged there, holding a microphone she'd clearly swiped from backstage. "Let's hear it for my baby brother, Eli," she shouted, grinning like a beauty pageant queen. The crowd erupted into cheers, and I froze. What was she doing? Before I could stop her, she launched into a spiel about how we'd worked so hard on this music together. "We've always been a team," she said. her voice syrupy sweet. I'm so proud of what we've created. The audience clapped, and my jaw clenched. She wasn't just stealing my spotlight. She was rewriting history in real time. I finished the set on autopilot, too furious to enjoy it. The second I stepped off stage, I found Erica basking in compliments from festival staff. "You're unbelievable," I hissed at her. "Lighten up," she said, unbothered. The crowd loved it. This wasn't just a misunderstanding or a sibling squabble anymore. Erica had crossed a line, and I knew I couldn't let her get away with it. After the festival fiasco, I didn't talk to Erica for weeks. I was done playing along. She'd taken something sacred to me, my music, and twisted it into her personal ego trip. I knew I needed to set the record straight, but every time I thought about confronting her publicly, I hesitated. What if people didn't believe me? What if I just ended up looking bitter and petty? I was still stewing when I got a call from a talent scout who'd seen my performance at the festival. "You've got something special, Eli," he said, his voice brimming with enthusiasm. "We'd love to bring you out to LA to meet some industry folks." It felt like a lifeline. Maybe I could finally escape Erica's shadow and prove that I didn't need her to succeed. I kept the trip quiet, not even telling my parents. The last thing I wanted was Erica finding a way to worm her way into it. The meeting in LA went better than I could have hoped. The scout connected me with a producer who loved my music and wanted to record an EP with me. For the first time, it felt like my hard work was paying off without any strings attached. But, of course, Erica found out. I'm not sure if she overheard me talking to Mom or if she was just stalking my social media like a hawk. But the night before I was supposed to leave for the studio, she showed up at my apartment unannounced. "L.A.?" she said, barging in without waiting for an invite. "Seriously, Eli? You weren't going to tell me?" "Why would I?" I snapped. "So you can hijack it like you do everything else?" Her face fell, but only for a second. Then she switched gears, flashing her practiced smile. "Look, I get it. You're mad about the festival. But this is big, Eli. You need me for this." "I don't need you," I said, my voice rising. "I never needed you. You've been riding my coattails since day one, and I'm done letting you take credit for my work." "You're being ridiculous," she shot back, her tone icy. "You think you can handle this alone? You'll crash and burn without me." I laughed bitterly. "I'd rather crash on my own than succeed with you stealing the wheel." Erica stormed out, slamming the door behind her. For the first time, I felt like I'd finally stood up to her. But I had no idea how far she was willing to go to keep her grip on my career. I was halfway through recording my EP in LA when the first signs of trouble appeared. The producer, Mark, pulled me aside after a session, looking uncharacteristically tense. "Eli, we need to talk," he said. "I just got a call from someone claiming to be your manager. She said she handles all your business affairs." I didn't even need to ask who it was. "What did she say?" I asked, my stomach churning. "She wanted to negotiate a cut of the royalties for herself," Mark said, his voice carefully neutral. "Said she's a co-writer on all your songs." I felt the blood drain from my face. Erica was relentless, but this was a new low, even for her. "She's lying," I said firmly. "She's not my manager, and she definitely didn't write any of my songs." Mark nodded. "I figured as much. She couldn't answer any of my questions about the music. But I thought you should know. She's making noise." I spent the rest of the day fuming. Erica wasn't just meddling anymore. She was actively sabotaging me. It was clear that if I didn't put a stop to it, she'd drag my career down with her. The breaking point came a few days later when a blog published an exclusive interview with Erica. In it, she claimed she'd been the driving force behind my success, even hinting that she'd ghostwritten some of my lyrics. "She's the real genius in the family," the article quoted her as saying. "I'm just the one who helped shape Eli's raw talent into something marketable." I couldn't believe it. My phone blew up with texts and DMs from friends, asking if the article was true. The producer saw it, too, and although he didn't say anything, I could tell he was wondering if there was more to the story. That's when I knew. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I called Erica that night, shaking with rage. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I yelled the moment she picked up. "You're not just lying about me. You're ruining my reputation." She didn't even apologize. "You're overreacting," she said. Do you know how many people would kill for the kind of publicity I've gotten you? That's not publicity, that's fraud. I shot back. You're making me look like a fraud. Maybe you should have thought about that before cutting me out. She snapped and I hung up before I could say something I'd regret. For the next few hours, I sat in my tiny studio apartment, scrolling through every article, post, and comment Erica had ever made about our music. The more I read, the angrier I got. She'd built her entire persona around my achievements, spinning a web of lies so intricate that even some of my friends had started to believe her. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I drafted a public statement, BY the next morning. It was live on all my social media accounts. To my fans and followers, it began, I need to clear the air about something important. To my fans and followers, I need to clear the air about something important. I stared at the words on my screen, heart pounding as I hit post. The statement was the hardest thing I'd ever written, but it was also the most necessary. In it, I laid everything bare. I explained how I'd been writing songs since I was 13, pouring my heart and soul into my music. I admitted that, while my sister had supported me in some ways early on, she'd never been a songwriter, co-writer, or manager. I exposed the lies she'd spread about her role in my career and apologized to anyone who had been misled by her claims. This has been a painful chapter of my life, I wrote, but I can't let my story, or my work, be taken from me. My music is mine, and I intend to protect it going forward. The post exploded. Within hours, it had thousands of likes, comments, and shares. Fans rallied behind me, flooding Erica's social media accounts with questions and accusations. Some of her old posts started disappearing, and by midday, she made her accounts private. For a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. No matter how toxic she'd been, Erica was still my sister. But that guilt evaporated when she called me later that night. "Are you happy now?" she snarled, skipping any pretense of civility. "You've ruined me." "You ruined yourself," I replied, my voice steady. "All I did was tell the truth." "You think people care about your stupid little songs?" she spat. "They only cared because I made them care." Her words stung, but I knew better than to let her manipulate me again. "Goodbye, Erica," I said, and hung up. That was the last time we spoke. In the weeks that followed, the fallout continued. Industry professionals reached out to express their support, some even sharing their own horror stories about people like Erica. My producer in LA was especially understanding, offering to connect me with a lawyer to ensure my rights were protected moving forward. But the most surprising part was my parents. At first, they stayed quiet, probably hoping the whole thing would blow over. But after a lengthy email from me detailing exactly what Erica had done, complete with screenshots and receipts, they finally admitted they'd been blind to her behavior. "Your mom and I are so sorry," Dad said over the phone one night, his voice heavy with regret. "We should have listened to you sooner." It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a start. Now, months later, I feel like I can finally breathe again. My EP is finished, and I've been getting steady bookings, this time without any interference from Erica. I still think about her sometimes, wondering if she'll ever take responsibility for what she did. But even if she doesn't, I've made peace with it. Because for the first time in years, I'm not living in her shadow. My music is my own, and the world knows the truth. What would you do in a similar situation? Share your opinion in the comments.